All right, here we go. So, Desmodromic valve train system. Always had questions about it, and now that I finally opened it up and I'm looking at it, I understand even more how this thing works, which is really kind of cool. So, I'll attempt to explain it. Um, so you can see if you see right here, I'm doing this with phone and flashlight. There's some springs back here. Behind it, you can kind of see one of them. Yeah, right there. Those springs, I think, push these two things outwards. So that way and that way. And then if you look down, you'll see that this is all one thing. So this, where are we at? This is all connected. It pivots here, and then it goes under there. So I think this is a better angle. There it is. So that it's all connected to this, and then that goes under. This is the opening cam lobe. All right. So the openers, you see them on the inside, they work like a traditional valve, and they push that thing down. So, boom, right there. All right. But if you notice that there's a little fork, you see that little gap underneath the almost brass looking part? That's the fork. So it goes around the valve stem like so, right? And pulls it closed. And then the top is pushed open. So if the thumb, imagine my thumb is the opening valve cam lobe right there. That pushes it down, it rocks, and then when it comes back up, the forks pull the valve shut. And because those forks are on an L, kind of like this, so if my fingertip was to be pushed down by the opening cam lobe, and then the closing cam lobe pushes my thumb back like this, closing the valve using the fork part that goes around the valve stem. So this is the closing cam lobe. This side's flat. You notice it coincides with almost a 90-degree from max opening, max lift on the opener, right? And then boom, there's nothing, and then it comes back around. As you can see on this side, comes back around, and this opener pushes this rocker that way, thus pulling the valve shut. And that allows Ducati to run wicked high RPMs, particularly in MotoGP and like with the V4R, to get those wicked high RPMs. You can see there's a follower right here. So, and if you see if I can get the angle, that's the tip of the follower right there. This follower. And you can see the shim underneath. Right there. That's the shim. And then you see it looks like a cake. I would assume that this part, go with the camera, zoom, focus. I can't see sure. This part, I think, is the shim that's checked for the closers. So when they do the valve adjustment or the shim adjustment, I'm guessing they check this shim and that one at the bottom. That one at the bottom right there, and also the top one for the closer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 shims per valve. It's 2 cylinders, 4 valves. Quick math, what's that, 16? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, or 8. I don't know. I can't math. I'm not even thinking straight right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 16 shims. So this is the upper bank or the vertical bank, and that's the horizontal bank. And yeah, I got belts on the way. I'm gonna change my belts, and I'm gonna borrow a shim tool and check my clearance, and hopefully I don't need to shim anything, because I believe to do it, if I remember correctly, you gotta take the belt off and lift the cams out. So you check the clearance, and then if you need to change it, you do the math, figure out what size shim you need, take the cam out, put the shim in, and then put it back together. So it's a bit of work, but it should be doable. Should be pretty fun. So I got spark plugs and belts on the way, and I need to go borrow a shim tool. But that's basically how the Desmodromic valve train systems work. So they don't have to worry about valve float or valve springs breaking like what some of the other super bikes have to do. So that's how you get the bikes like the V4R will rev to 16,000 RPM depending on the gear, because the rev limit on that bike is gear dependent. But it'll do 16,000 RPM, I think, in some gears, which is a lot for a 1,000. I don't think. I think the only other 1,000 that do 16,000 RPM are probably superbike built motors, which get torn down, I don't know, maybe every 3,000 kilometers, because they got to change out those valve springs and everything else, because they stress out so much, and then they'll snap and fail. But if you have the Desmodromic, then that's not an issue, because there's no spring to float, because it'll literally have a camshaft lobe pulling the valves shut right after the other cam lobe pushes the valve open. So I think that's pretty neat.